right, welcome back to the Lehocky Eagles postgame show. We're live from Ocean Casino, as we are after every Eagles game. The Eagles win it today, 31-17. They hold the Dolphins to 263 total yards. Now, that's significant because the Dolphins had come in averaging 317 yards per game. They were first in the league in almost every offensive category, and the Eagles kind of shut them down today to win that big game. Mark Farzetta is still with us today, and of course, John McMullen is going to join us, and Kayla Santiago in a little bit. Farzy, the player you can bank on is presented by First Trust Bank. Who can we bank on today?
I mean,
Farzy world.
I think it's the only name that we can really continue to bank on. When you got a streak going that only two other guys in the history of the NFL have only been able to match that streak, you're able to match them. 125-plus receiving yards, 5 straight games. Hat tip to our man A.J. Brown for being able to be that guy that you could bank on consistently, especially the last 5 games. You know, I guess the squeaky wheel does get the grease, gentlemen, because ever since there was that little spat on the sidelines against the Vikings, he has been the man that you can consistently rely on to make the big plays downfield. And that play that he had in that fourth quarter, 42-yard reception with a man hanging off of him to make that play and set up that touchdown, certainly something you can bank on right there.
What's spat? Because according to AJ, there was no spat.
There was a spat. No. He said there was a spat. He said it wasn't about targets, which we all believe he was lying.
It was just two good friends.
Yeah. Having a powwow.
Conversing.
Sure.
That's all, Mark.
He's like, man, he's like, just like, you know, my Twitter name, Always On.
Yeah.
Okay? You better throw me the damn ball. That's what he was saying.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, listen, you throw him the damn ball, and good things are going to happen for the Eagles. It's evident that he is a big engine on this team. It's funny to me that the Dolphins thought they could come in here and run the football against the Eagles. They wound up with 45 yards rushing in this game, right? The Eagles have been holding the running backs to 3.1 yards per carry. Do the math on that, 12 into 45.
Yeah.
That's less than 3 yards a carry.
Absolutely.
And that is one of the reasons why this defense is so good. Once you stop one of the pistons of somebody's offense, what are they going to do? They can't throw it every down. They've got to have some kind of a balance. And the Dolphins really didn't have any answer once the running game was shut down.
I was shocked that they kept trying to test the interior of this Eagles defense. Every time they ran the ball up the middle, there was somebody waiting for them. And for as much credit as Mike McDaniel gets for being this brilliant play caller, how did you not identify this? I thought you waited too long to try to test the perimeter. And once they tested the perimeter is where they found their success. Then they go back to running the ball to the inside again. I'm thinking, you're playing right into the defense's hands. You know, you didn't attack them enough through the air with all the chaos on the back end of the defense, and then you play to their strength, which was between the two tackles. And we saw whether they went back to pass or run the football. Look at how consistently Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter collapsed the middle of that offensive line.
And they do it every week. You know,
yes.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why they're only giving up 3 yards per carry to all these offenses. You cannot run on the Eagles. You have to. You know, I don't know how you have to go outside, but you have to design a play where you can get guys loose and get around the edge, because Hassan Reddick is playing amazing. Except the one play, they had him dropped into coverage. And defensive ends just don't make up ground like he made up to make that tackle on that ball carrier there.
Yeah, but he's not your average defensive end. In my opinion, he's a tweener. They call them rush guys, but, you know, when you're lining up on the outside and 95% of the time you're rushing the passer, you know, you remember we had Jannard Avery, and they tried to put him in that position, and all he could do was speed rush. He had no other rush, and you couldn't drop him into coverage because he couldn't cover. He couldn't cover in zone. That's the reason why they went after Hassan Reddick, because he's the type of guy that when you get in your 5-man front and you want to play zone behind it, that you can drop him. Now, I think Nolan Smith could be another guy like that, you know, but Nolan Smith has got to come on, and it's going to be hard for him to get reps with Josh Sweat playing the way he's playing. But you can't do that with Josh Sweat. So what's going to happen is the really, really, really good offenses are going to begin to pick up and understand that, you know what, when they go 5-man and they want to go zone, Hassan Reddick is the only guy that's going to drop. Now, they had snuck Josh Sweat out there a couple of times, but, you know, I don't think Miami really pick up on it where they could take advantage of it. The better offenses will do that. But listen, he's playing lights out. He's playing lights out across the board, and the whole defense is playing lights out across the board. To your point, how do you get on the perimeter? The one thing that I don't like about the Eagles' defense is that, on the perimeter, they're a little bit undisciplined in how they handle their business and how they do what they do. You see Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick, they always play wrong foot up. And we saw a running play get outside of Brandon Graham tonight because he was standing wrong foot up. Now, it only happens maybe once or twice in a game.
Explain what that means to the people that
So if you're playing on the right side and I'm the end guy on the line of scrimmage, my inside foot should always be up. So anything that comes at me, I can fight it off here, but I can always keep my outside arm free. And if something breaks outside, I can turn and get to it. But if my outside foot is back and my outside foot is up and my inside foot is back, that means I'm tilted in. So the first step that I'm going to take is always towards the line. So if they got any kind of motion that's coming outside, I've got to take another step before I can redirect. Now, what do smart teams do? When they got outside on those couple of plays, they had Brandon Graham wrong foot up, they motioned the tight end across, okay, and then they got outside. And that's the way you can attack this Eagles defense, because a lot of times what they do is they don't even line up. You look at Hassan Reddick, anytime he's got a tight end or an X, a Y, a tight end flex, or a bunch, he always gets outside of it all, so he can always turn it back in. And the thing I don't understand is why are the other rush ends and why are all the defensive ends on the Eagles, why don't they play it that way? Because the only runs that they got, listen, they gave up, what you said, 45 yards?
Mostert had 45, and it evened out with the -3.
Mostert had 36 of it
on two
run plays.
Back run.
And there were plays where they allowed them to get outside. So can you imagine if they technically played it right? They wouldn't have got anything. But I'm telling you right now, these other offenses are going to look at that, and they're going to say, okay, we can game plan when BG's in the game. We can game plan when Sweat's in the game in certain situations. If we want to get the ball outside, we can get outside if we really want to, because those guys are going to be wrong foot up, and we'll take advantage of the technique flaws to get around the corner.
AJ, of course, with 10 catches for 137. Goddard, 5 for 77. Devontae had 4 for 49. DeAndre Swift added 3 catches for 13 yards. And we kind of took him for granted today because he had 15 carries for 62 yards. He had a couple of nice runs today. I mean, DeAndre, we're looking at this offense like he wasn't even a part of it. But he was pretty substantial in the game today. He had it long at 22.
This is an offense with so many weapons that can wear you down. It's not even funny. And even when it's not perfect, the quality and the depth in their offense just wears a lot of defenses down, because the pieces are so versatile and so different at how they come at you. You look at a big body receiver like an AJ. You look at the skinny receiver who's an incredible route runner in Devontae Smith. You see more of a power back between the tackles and Gainwell. You see the guy who's a home run hitter in Swift. Boston Scott, they don't even use him that much. They have so many different diversified pieces to this equation. It mentally frustrates a defense after a while, because they try to hone in on certain techniques of certain players. And once they think they figured that out, they go another direction to hit you. And it mentally demoralizes a defense in a lot of ways.
Well, how many times, even going back to the Andy Reid days, have we watched an offense for the Philadelphia Eagles and gone, they didn't run, they ran the football, it didn't work, and then they just abandoned the run? Yeah. They only averaged 3.3 yards per carry. The running backs tonight only averaged 3.3 yards per carry. But they stuck with it. Gainwell obviously dragged that number down quite a bit, but not including Jalen Hurts' running numbers, which was what, 11 tonight,
11 carries for 21 yards.
So you think about the tush pushes involved there. But just the running backs today, 3.3 yards per carry. They stuck with it. They made sure they were able to keep that offense off the field for as long as they could, and they got big first downs when they needed.
They ran the ball more than they passed it.
Well, including Jalen Hurts' runs, though, right?
Yeah, but that can be deceiving. That's
I know. Jalen had 11 carries.
It's deceiving because those tush pushes are in there. Yeah. It's deceiving also because when the quarterback takes off on a scramble, that's counted as a run play. It was not intended to be a run play. It was intended to be a pass play, and everything broke down and he had to take off. So that's why, sometimes when I look at those numbers, they're kind of skewed. Last week I said, they ran it 18 times. Well, there was 2 scrambles in there and the one where he actually scored. So there was really only they called 16 run plays, and they only ran the ball 3 times. So those numbers can be skewed sometimes.
If you watch their game against the Bills, so they had a 70-point game against the Broncos, and they played the Bills. This game played out very similar to the way that they played against the Buffalo Bills. The Bills were able to get into the backfield, they were able to get sacks, and they kept running the football in that game. That's the same thing the Eagles did today against this team. Blueprint was put out there, the Eagles studied it, and then they executed it, and in some degrees they executed it better than the Bills did.
They did turn the ball over a couple.
That is a huge problem.
Battle again in this game. Well, winning by 2 touchdowns normally doesn't happen that way, but were we concerned about Jalen with the a couple of turnovers?
Those are things that can be corrected when you have that. When you lose a turnover battle and you win, those are minor corrections. All of a sudden, if you're losing these games and losing the turnover battle, these things are magnified even more so. The interception was a tip ball. Same thing last week with Goddard. The ball's hit out of his hand, interception by Quentin Williams. Those things happen. Unfortunately, they go in the books as an interception for the quarterback.
But that was a horrible decision.
It was. Well,
I mean, no, seriously. It was a horrible decision.
Okay, but still, the ball's ricocheted up in the air. Okay,
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But still, the stat line shows the Eagles lost the turnover battle
absolutely
for the 2nd consecutive week. We're not accustomed to seeing this with this team, especially when they racked up so many turnovers the first 3 games, and then they go 3 games without any turnovers, and then they lose the last 2 turnover battles. So, yes, it's something that they have to work on, and the coach will tell you all week, we have to do a better job of taking care of the ball. We have to do a better job of making decisions with the football. I agree with you 100%. Jalen Hurts saw the pressure coming right in his face and still tried to throw the ball. Defender bats it up in the air, guy picks it off, touchdown. All of a sudden, the game's tied.
And you say that these are things that need to be corrected. I agree. Everyone agrees they need to be corrected. Why aren't they being corrected? Because for Jalen Hurts, we're seeing this now at an alarming rate. So either it's healthy, either he's not healthy, or he is regressing in being able to go through the proper decision-making skills.
Don't use the word
Well, that's why I default to injury. But, I mean, when you really try to break it down, Jalen Hurts tries to step up in the pocket today, fumbles the football, it doesn't protect the football.
Right.
He did the same thing against the Jets when he had issues there in terms of making good decisions, just in terms of the interception thrown. And then today throws it right into the edge rusher or the corner blitzing off the edge. That's a problem for me, and that's something they're not correcting. I got all the confidence in the world in Jalen Hurts, but whatever coaching is receiving in this instance, or if he's injured, like you said, you have heard from the NovaCare complex already that there's a little bit of a limp going on there with Jalen. We heard from John McMullen talking about how there's a little limp going on there from Jalen. So that is the number one concern to me, is his health above any mental issue.
Well, I don't believe that, the injuries are causing, the turnovers. I look at it in 2 ways. The beginning of the year, the Eagles defense was averaging like 2 or 3 turnovers per game. And I said, listen, man, they come in bunches. Don't fall in love with the fact that they're going to do this week in and week out, because they come in bunches. They're like sacks. They come in bunches. Turnovers are the same exact way. He didn't start the year off turning the ball over at an alarming rate, but over the last 4 games, he's turned the ball over almost twice a game on average. So they kind of come in bunches. So you just gotta play it out, and it's that fine line that you walk between wanting your quarterback to be aggressive and make the great throws and take chances, where it's warranted, and for him to be so overly protective that he's not willing to make the throws that are there and throw the ball with rhythm and timing. But he's going through a spurt right now, obviously, where he's turning the ball over at an alarming rate. A sack fumble today, another interception today, and albeit, hey, it's a tip ball or he threw it through the guy, whatever it is, it's still a turnover. So the only thing that you can hope is at some point he gets to a place where the run is over, and the turnover barrage kind of settles down and he kind of gets back to normal, because this is like crazy. What is he, like 8 touchdowns and 8 interceptions now?
Yeah.
Round those numbers, yeah.
See, here's what concerns me. As smooth as Jalen is, as mature as he is, and this is just human nature with anybody, I think Jalen's even surprised at the volume of turnovers he's had over the last 4 games. Then you get to a point where you start thinking more than you react, and it takes you away from that rhythm, that mindset. You start patting the ball a little bit longer. You start second guessing yourself in terms of, am I actually seeing what I'm seeing here? And that leads to disaster. Now, you won't see it on Jalen's face expression-wise, but it's human nature. When you've been as flawless as he was in 2022, and all of a sudden you come out and it's as jagged as it is now, that mechanism in your brain kicks in that I know what play I'm running, but am I sure that I'm performing it right? And you know, when your mind says deliver the ball in 3 steps, 1, 2, 3, but you wait a 4th step, you're allowing a defender to get that much closer to you. You're allowing a DB to converge that much closer on the target he's going to eventually throw to, i.e. last week he throws that pick in double coverage against the Jets. Those are things that we weren't accustomed to seeing Jalen do last year.
I think that he is, you know, because think of how freakish some of these turnovers have been.
Absolutely.
You know, tips, batted balls, sack fumble, you know. It's just some of these things are just freak accidents, if you will, if you can label them, that they're still turnovers. And I'm assuming in his mind it's like, well, man, this has got to end at some point. This can't just keep, you know, bad luck just can't keep happening, because I'm pretty sure that that's how he sees it, as bad luck. You know, the same way he only went through last season with just 6 interceptions. You know, how many more balls last year could have been interceptions that we either dropped or, you know, whatever the circumstances were. So I don't know. I think he's just got to keep playing, and at some point in time, things always balance themselves out. They just do.
All right, that, of course, segment presented by First Trust Bank, the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. And also, Farzy, you got to – well, what do we the big charity that we're representing here on the JAKIB Media Pond Lehocky postgame show. Talk to me about that.
Well, you know, EBOD is a great charity that helps combat Alzheimer's as well as dementia, and we have our great golf tournament going on right now. You could vote on our teams for Team Miss, Team Seth, Team Gunn, and Team Farzy as well. Just text the word SCORE to 833-202-9835. That's 833-202-9835, and it's text the word SCORE, and you can vote on those promo codes right there. Mike Miss, yes, of course, once again, you are in the lead. Congratulations for that.
What are the official numbers? You keep saying he's in the lead. What are the numbers?
It's about a lot to a little less, way less. No. That's about how it goes right now.
So you don't have official numbers?
I don't have the official documentation right now, but here's what I do have. Just like on the football team, a team's strength lies in its players working together as a team. And that's what we're doing right now with the great people of EBOD for this great cause.
Yeah, but we're competitive. We want to know what the heck is going on.
Yeah, come on, Farzy.
Who's in the lead and why, and, you know, how is this? I'm just trying to figure out, okay, so we got these teams, and do we just have these teams and people are just signing up for the person that they like?
Yes.
Or are we, like, having an event at some point that's going to determine who wins the actual golf portion of it?
The first part of that.
You know, if I were y'all, I wouldn't worry. Just take the L.
There's no way. Hey, listen.
I would stand up like a man.
I'm gonna say it like this. I know there's no way in hell there's more people out there that like Mike McMillan better than they like me. Shit.
You don't have to be liked to get votes. You just have to be known.
I got to get you when I can get you, Mikey Miss.
Oh, man.
By the way, a quick thing before we get to the break. There were a couple of Major League Baseball bigwigs at the game today. Mike Trout and Liam Castellanos. Not Nick. Liam got a standing ovation. That little kid. What's the rest of his life going to be like? It's all downhill from here for the kid.
Absolutely. And were they playing Phillies walk-up music throughout the game tonight? It sounded like 90s era hip-hop, and it sounded like Phillies walk-up music all night. I'm all for it.
And doesn't Castellanos live in Florida somewhere in the offseason?
He has a home in Miami that has a batting cage in it.
So this kid's been playing hooky from school for like 2 years.
No, he missed the first round against the Dolphins. Against the Marlins.
Apparently he's being homeschooled anyway.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what the story is.
That kid's a rock star in the state of Florida, man.
He is. All right, it's the Pond Lehocky Eagles postgame show. Kayla's Diamond Debate with Kayla Santiago is coming up next. And also John McMullen, live from the stadium, and we'll see what John has to say about this game. We're back after this.
And good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.